Canada added more jobs than expected last month, but at a time when Canada has seen record population growth, one thing we have heard is that the jobs growth is not as robust as the population growth. And the issue of underemployment for new Canadians has been explored by the Conference Board. To talk a little bit more about some of those issues, we're joined here in studio is Susan Black, President and CEO of the Conference Board of Canada. It's nice to have you with us. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, John, for having me.
So obviously, Canada is reliant on new Canadians as part of our big growth story for our economy over the long term. And very quickly, we're kind of getting a reality check on what the jobs market looks like for new Canadians. What has the work at the Conference Board told you about what's happening, or maybe the gaps that you've uncovered?
Well, one of the things that we see is that there's a skills gap. So as we know, 90% of the paid labor in this country resides in small and medium-sized businesses. And those companies tell us again and again they can't find the skills they need in order to grow their company. At the same time, we've got huge influx of immigrants, and they're ending up in jobs where they're overskilled. And so that's a problem. So we have this mismatch, and we need employers and newcomers to work together to figure out how to close that gap.
What do you think are some of the solutions to that?
Well, let me talk about the barriers first. Because we know the barriers, then we know the solutions. So I think, again, small and medium-sized businesses don't always have the resources internally to be able to do things like assess skills or to figure out what credentialing should look like. So that's a challenge. We also have a very strong theme in this country that newcomers need to have Canadian experience before we want to hire them. And the fact of the matter is there's no common definition for Canadian experience, and there's absolutely no evidence that Canadian experience gets people to be better workers for you. So I think those are a couple of things that really prevent, say, high-quality hiring. So the kinds of things employers could do, starting with the tactical, is when you are posting a job, look for competencies, look for skills, be very specific that way. Don't look for unicorns. Understand that if you're going to hire and you want your pool of talent to be really broad, and you're going to hire newcomers, they may come with some language challenges that you're going to need to hire for. They may come from a different culture where they're going to need some help understanding the norms. So things like that and being willing to train make a big difference.
And I guess if you end up in a role that you are too skilled for, I wonder if that, you're talking a lot about the smaller businesses, but for bigger businesses, I would imagine if people are coming into the business and there's a higher turnover rate as a result of a mismatch there, that's not a good thing either.
No, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the employer, and it's not good for the newcomer. We actually did a study recently called the Leaky Bucket, and we analyzed cohorts of permanent residents going back to the 80s to see how many were leaving. And what we're seeing is an increased number leaving Canada. So they're coming here for a period of time and then they're moving on. That doesn't bode well because that shrinks our labor pool, which is a problem for productivity and prosperity. So finding how to create these inclusive environments and get the right skills match is really important.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that because I think for new Canadians, there's going to be a frustration over the cost of living as well.
Right.
And we keep talking about this through the lens of the housing market. If you were to try to compare this skills mismatch versus things like the cost of living, do you think it's an easier solution that could maybe help to make all of the economic hopes hum a little bit more faster, since housing is such a long-term issue?
Well, housing is an issue that's been building. Housing affordability is a crisis that's been building for a long time. It's not the cause of it is not the spike in immigration. It's just added fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to having programs at the provincial and federal level that are really geared towards helping people settle. So we want to think carefully about what the educational requirements are, what settlement services are, make sure they're integrated. And then I think getting employers to look at newcomers as a pool that offers greater creativity and innovation is helpful too. So shift the mindset from this is a burden and I can't get the right people I need to opening up how you attract them, how you work with settlement agencies and bring them in.
And we've also spent the last few years trying to assess how and where people should be working. And I wonder if, the rise of work from home or flexibility in how you work and where you work, is that a challenge in a situation like this, or is that an opportunity in a situation like this?
Well, I think we're going into the realm of hybrid now. I think hybrid is a great opportunity for employers as well as employees. We know from other studies that have been done, if you're a newcomer coming into particularly any large urban area, one of the things you need to be successful is you need transportation to your job and so on. Sometimes that's very hard to find.
Right.
And so if you can get jobs where you can work remotely as part of the time, absolutely, that's flexibility. But I think all workers are looking for that. All office workers are valuing that much more than they ever did prior to the pandemic.
I think at the end of the day, though, figuring all these issues out is, at the end of the day, extremely important for an economy that is going to be driven in the years to come, in part through immigration. I mean, even some of the economists on Bay Street, as soon as we saw, for other reasons, some of the pullback recently in some of the immigration policy in certain pockets over the short term, immediately the economists had to change their expectations for growth in the country because it's a huge driver.
Yes, that is absolutely true. We are a country that needs immigration. And that's going to drive, by 2030, 100% of our labor force growth. And we need that growth in order to have productivity and prosperity. So there's a lot of noise around immigration. People have lots of personal experiences may inform them, but we need to look at this positively, and we need to find those policy solutions. And I would encourage every employer to make sure their talent pool includes immigrants and not, as well as non-immigrants. And there are very tactical things they can do to make that happen and make it easier for everyone.